AJ McGuire from the AJ and Joanna show in the studio with me right now. Manny Kess is stopping by here, hanging out with us off of Fremont Street. And Manny, you are a very busy man all the time, in and out of Las Vegas. Normally your background, hospitality industry, also running for treasurer here for the state. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But Manny, before we get into these stories, I got to ask you, you've been around some of the ins and outs of the entertainment world here in Vegas, right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Is there a unique story, family-friendly-ish, that we can share about maybe an artist, maybe an event you were at?
Oh, man, there's a lot of stories I could share. Maybe we'll come up maybe two of them.
Okay.
One was when I first moved to Vegas about 11 years ago and I got into hospitality. There was always this talk of this big customer. This guy's name is Jolo. Huge customer. It's like globally known. Comes out and he just goes crazy, spends a ton of money. I'm like, okay, yeah, we hear the stories. Well, I'm in a nightclub one night. Everything just stops. And in comes this group of people.
Okay.
And a few minutes later, there is just a parade of champagne. And now you're like, oh, Manny, come on, that's boring. Well, when every table in the nightclub gets a bottle of champagne from one customer, that's insane. So we're sitting there like, is this really happening? Come to find out, this gentleman spends $1.1 million that night in a club.
And that was the first time I ever went to a club. And I decided I'm going to go big. No, I'm kidding. 1.1 mil?
1.1 mil.
Holy smokes.
And I'm sitting there going, how many cars he could have bought, houses.
Right.
And this is like 10 years ago. So imagine what that's worth today.
My gosh.
It's crazy.
I think that a lot of us can't even sit there and fathom what that would be like.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about, oh, money's all relative. I was sitting there going, is this real life? I was pinching myself because I just couldn't believe it. You think, I'm going to spend a couple of grand, and that's a lot of money. 1.1 million in 2 hours, and to give away alcohol to strangers.
How often does that happen behind the scenes here in Vegas? People don't even realize
it doesn't happen often, not on that scale, but this past weekend for EDC, there was one group that spent on one night 160 grand, and I think last night they spent over 200. So there's a lot of money that gets spent, and you don't notice it or even hear about it unless you're in that circle or around. But yeah, it's insane. I've seen people gamble millions of dollars.
And meanwhile, I was complaining last night when we went to the store and got 4 little flanks of meat for $10. Thinking to myself, why is this meat so expensive?
Yeah, what's going on here?
That's nothing. Okay, great. And perhaps maybe another one? You got one more?
Yeah, I've got plenty. So we're lucky. We deal with the Kess Group, the company which I founded. We deal with a lot of professional athletes.
Yeah.
So it's amazing because what we think is normal, other people are like, what's going on? So for Summer League last year, we're still kind of in the whole COVID, the pandemic, so everyone's being careful. But Summer League happened, and every NBA team comes to Vegas. So I'm sitting there, and I'm Greek. So I'm sitting there, and we go out with a bunch of players, and then Giannis is in town.
Okay.
And, he's not a party guy. He's really just family-oriented and just all about basketball and family. But he was here for Summer League. So somehow my friends from Greece and back home in New York were like, is Giannis there? I'm like, yeah. Oh, we need a picture. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go up to this guy and be like, hey, during the pandemic, can you put your mask down so I get a picture with you? But the long story short, I end up going to Summer League. I end up meeting him, and just the nicest guy. And then he's like, hey, man, what's there to do on a Monday night in Vegas? I'm like, go to dinner and go to bed. I was like, really?
I thought the Vegas dream, man.
Yeah. I'm like, man, this is COVID Vegas. So it's just so cool that we get to experience these people that we notice and we see on TV that are super famous, just so down to earth.
That is great.
So it's pretty cool. And that's one thing that's amazing with Vegas. You go to dinner and you look next to you and it's like, oh, here's Jennifer Lopez having dinner next to you. Or here's, Lewis Hamilton. It's the most amazing thing that people are just so down to earth here, and there's no pretentiousness, and this is so rare. It's common.
Yeah, it's good to know when you do bump into people who you either look up to or think a lot of, and they're nice to you. Because nothing will take, that moment and ruin it forever for you when you find out somebody you really like a lot is a huge jerk and could care less, And we know that happens a lot with people. Obviously, when you're a celebrity, you're going to have a lot of people want to come up, take photos, talk to you, that kind of thing. And there are those who do treat people like garbage, and you hate to see it, and it hurts. And I'm the same way, man. When I come across somebody, an artist or somebody who is like, wow, this is a great person. They were super nice. They didn't have to be. You don't ever forget that moment.
That's true. Listen, being in this business and around a significant amount of celebrities, you've got to look at it from a 10,000 foot ceiling or sky, because I'm around a ton of athletes and they're so happy to take pictures. But you know what? If you're having dinner with your friends and you're in a conversation and somebody taps you, say, hey, can I get your picture? It's like, I'm having dinner with my friends. I don't want to get up right now and take a picture, because if I take it with you, then I got to take it with 20 other people. So it's all about the right opportunity in the right moment. I think most famous people, they're very very grateful. Of course, like everything else, you have those bad apples, but the majority of them are grateful. But it's also about opportunity.
Yeah.
So someone's, going into the restroom and like, hey, can I get a picture? I mean, can you
I'm going to stand right behind you. I'll wait till you're done. Don't worry.
Seriously. Wash your hands. But, it's those things and people get bad raps because what happens in life, so most people don't talk about the good times. They're always like, oh, this person was bad at this one time, or I had this one meal at the one restaurant and my steak was a little bit overcooked. They won't tell you about the 24 times they went and it was perfect.
Yeah.
So we live in a society where we're so quick to judge and we're not really paying attention and understanding the situation and what's happening.
I got Manny Kess in here chatting on the show this morning, and you are running for state treasurer. Let's talk about that for a moment here. First of all, what made you want to do that? I mean, that's a big role.
It is a big role, and it's something that I've never wanted to do in my life. I mean, the reality is I've been a business owner for over 20 years, and I love starting things, building things, taking care of myself, my family. But the pandemic taught us that local and state government plays a huge role in our day-to-day life, because in Nevada, we had one individual, our governor, who decided who was essential and who wasn't essential.
Right.
So if you were a casino, you were essential. If you were a church, you were not. So I could go gamble, but I couldn't go worship. Dispensaries were essential, but barbershops and beauty salons were not. So I can go to a dispensary, but I couldn't get a haircut. I mean, I know COVID is a smart, but I know who's that smart. It's just amazing to me how. So I have several companies, and I made the non-essential list. So basically, the governor told us, hey, you're not important. And it's not about like politics and Republican versus Democrat. It's about common sense, because it wasn't like, hey, Democrats, you're essential, and Republicans, you're not, or vice versa. It was big corporations. You can go to Walmart and go shop, or Costco, but you couldn't go to your dollar store or your small mom and pop place.
Right.
And to me, that's crazy. How can you decide who can make a living and who can't? So that really irritated me and angered me, quite frankly. And so I said, you know what? We need to change the system. And so I looked at the different political offices, and I was like, all right, what can I do to create change? And state treasurer really stuck out because it's all about managing finances, but more importantly, you have a platform. So you can say, hey, this doesn't make sense. I'm not a policymaker, but I can talk to the assembly or the state senate and say, hey, guys and girls, what you're trying to do here is crazy. And this is why it's crazy. Why don't we look at an alternative way to make this work? And you need that. You need common sense in office.
Yeah. And so let's talk real quick about Vegas specifically here. As we know, when everything shut down, it was devastating for the entire city. And probably one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the most hardest hit next to New York cities in America when it came to that, because of the fact that we rely so much on tourism and all the hospitality industry here and all the jobs that go along with it. How do you think Vegas is doing now since, things have opened back up?
You hit the nail on the head. And I'll tell you a fun fact, which most Nevadans don't even know. In 2019, we had 49 million visitors.
Okay.
Our population is 3.1 million.
All right.
2020, I saw a poll that said we had less than 10 million visitors. In a state that's probably 80% reliant on hospitality and visitors, we had 1/5. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So a lot of people got destroyed, lost everything, moved out of the state. But like your question is about now everything's open.
Right.
But the problem is it's hard to get staff. So you want to go to your favorite restaurant, they're not fully staffed, so they can't take as many people. You're frustrated. Your waits are longer when you go and dine. You want to go to a show. And everything in hospitality now has slowed down because people don't want to go back to work. Everybody wants to work remotely.
Yeah.
And it's really tough because, again, we're not patient. As consumers, we want it now. We want it to be perfect, or we're mad. Or, we're yelping. So it's one of those things where it's amazing to see the city's incredibly busy. People are coming here. The floodgates have opened. But until we get fully staffed and until we become more business friendly and make people are leaving their states, like you said, New York, California, and they're moving, until we can start getting more people coming here, we're going to see that little gap in what we need and that gap in the workforce.
Let's talk about the American dream. I've got Manny Kess in the studio. He is also running for state treasurer here in Nevada. And would you say you are living the American dream right now?
Oh, absolutely. I was born and raised in New York. I started in the restaurant business in 2008 when we had the economic collapse. I mean, Nevadans remember it because we got the hardest hit state in the country when it came to real estate. But in New York, we got destroyed in small businesses. So what happened was we, on a state and national level, we funded the institutions, the financial institutions and the banks that put us in that mess. And what happened to small businesses? We got left behind. So I lost everything. By 2010, I was completely broke. Moved out here in 2011. Started a company. Fast forward now, I'm very, very blessed. I'm a multimillionaire. I own many companies, and it's not bragging. I worked hard. So I am the American dream. I started something. I made something of myself. I lost it all due to unforeseen circumstances. Started again, built something, and here we are. So if people take nothing else, just understand that the pandemic hurt everyone. Unless you were Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, you got hurt, right?
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it, or maybe an online marketer. But it's okay. We have to be resilient, and we got to work hard, and we can make it again. We can't give up, and we can't just keep getting mad at what's happening around us. We got to just buckle down and work harder, and hopefully we will elect people into office that want to create change, that don't need a job. The biggest thing that I've learned in 17 months of campaigning, most of these politicians need a job.
Yeah.
They're not doing it to help you and me. They don't represent you and me. They're just like, hey, I can't get a job. Oh, I can go in here. Let me become a politician. And it's like, wow, really? It's true. Couple $100, you go file and you can run for office.
It's good to know. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
something else outside of radio. Okay, so I want to get into it.
AJ for state senate. Let's go.
Let's do it. Speaking of, all right, we're talking about COVID, talking about how the city was hit, but our school systems here in Clark County were hit very, very hard, and across the state. As a parent with 4 boys, 3 of them who have been in school, I saw the struggle. It was real, both doing the long distance learning and the huge difference it made when they were back in school. Night and day difference. I know there's a lot of challenges here. Education is a big part of your platform as well. How do you think that we can improve that here?
I mean, that's really a loaded question. The reality is most Nevadans that don't have kids have no idea how terrible we're doing in education. So when I talk to people and I'm like, we are last on almost every list, K through 12, people are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, that's the reality. The past 10 years, all we do is we keep increasing the education budget, thinking that it's magically going to get fixed. It's not the way it works. So people, especially politicians, they always talk about education. Oh, I want to fix it, but there's never a plan. What I did is I came out with a plan, and I released that last week. I would like to create an office of the Inspector General who will fall under the state treasurer's purview, because unfortunately in our state, everything falls under the governor's purview, which means he or she controls everything. Well, why not split it up a little bit? Why not have some checks and balances? So Inspector General under the state treasurer's office, and that individual will have one job. That individual has to solely audit Clark County and Washoe County School District. Let's open up the books. Let's see where the money's going. Then we can start fixing the problem. Instead of just talking about it and getting what I like to say clickbait, let's actually find a solution. So you open up the books, you see where money's going, and then you get the teachers union, the legislature, and parents into an auditorium, because it's going to be a big group, and say, all right, this is the numbers, this is what's happening. How do we fix this? People talk about school choice. People talk about charter schools, breaking up Clark County, which is the 5th largest school district in the nation. Those are all good ideas, but without having the facts, they're just guesses. I don't want to throw spaghetti at the wall. I want to have all the information in front of me and sit down with people far smarter than me in the education field and fix the problem.
All right, Manny Kess in the studio. He has got a huge background in hospitality industry, especially here in Las Vegas, running for state treasurer. Let's get one more in here. I know you're a busy man. You got to get on with the rest of your day here, but tell us about the Manny party and the park.
Yeah, so what we did was I go up and down the state and I meet people, but the summer's here and the weather's beautiful. I said, why not just do an event on the weekend where people can get together? I'll provide food, soft drinks, a DJ, and we'll just make it a fun experience. I think before I got into politics, I never went to events because I thought they were going to be boring. Like, what's better than a barbecue and people congregating? You bring your family. Yeah, I just did one this past Saturday in Anthem Hills. Some people brought their dogs. I'm like, this is great. Instead of making it like taboo and, oh, no, I don't want to. Let's make it fun. Growing up, 2 things you never discussed: religion and politics. That was a no-no for me and my family. Now it's the opposite. Everyone always talks about religion and politics. So why don't we just make it a fun experience where people can get together, share their thoughts? It's okay if you have differences of opinion. Have some hot dogs, have some hamburgers, have some Body Armor juices, which are amazing, and I'm hooked. And literally just make something that's so important fun. Don't just make it boring and make it uncomfortable. So yeah, every Saturday we pick a different park around Las Vegas and we do this barbecue in the park. It's a meet and greet. I get to talk to people and face-to-face, answer questions. When's the last time you got to speak to a legislature or somebody in office and talk to them? Well, let's change it. If I'm going to represent Nevada, I want Nevadans to know who I am so they know who they're going to have as their voice.
Speaking of, do you have a website, something you want to plug?
Absolutely. So my website is www.mannyfornv.com. So www.mannyfornv.com. You can comment. If you want to donate, donations are always great. If you have concerns, please email me. We need to create change and not just talk about it. We need to do it. And I'm here to be the voice.
All right, Manny Kess, thank you, man, taking time to chat with us today.
I appreciate the opportunity and your time.